Morning, everybody. Sorry for the delay. For some reason, my iPhone and my sleep schedule just did not go off this morning. So I got up like 50 minutes later than I normally do. Set me back. So that's why I'm a little delayed today. Market's nuts. We dropped pretty heavily in the pre-market, um, pretty much to the previous week's lows, and bounced. And my new saying, the gobbledygook, back in effect here in the S&P 500. Nasdaq's a little relatively weaker, so this market doesn't know what it wants right now. That's basically where we're at. This week we got ISM data today. We have what else this week? We have unemployment and non-farm payrolls. That would be on Friday. All right, we have a slew of earnings still. Okay, so some notables this week is let's see, we got Walt Disney reported this morning. Palantir is coming this week. PayPal, PepsiCo, Chipotle, Enphase, Supermicro Computer, AMD, Uber, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, AbbVie. Let's see what else here. Google, ARM, Qualcomm, ConocoPhillips, Estee Lauder, Amazon, Irish Energy, Roblox, Reddit, Affirm, Atlassian, Barrick, Toyota, Under Armour. So that's a slew of earnings. Okay? And as always, we go over them, all right? As always, we go over them. Uh, talk about Friday. Friday was a barcode for a little bit. And then I was live in my room. I was talking, narrating the markets. And I said, there's a stat that I'll share with everybody. 97%. Okay? 97% of all real-time trading hour sessions hit the overnight high or overnight low. Now, 3% of the time they don't. And I was narrating that in my channel on Discord. Okay? So the NASDAQ did fulfill that stat eventually because we had a balanced market. I'll show you a little bit here. So I can blow it up a little better here. Oop, hold on. So this is what do we do? That's Friday session. This is the overnight. Now, it almost hit the overnight. It actually didn't. So that fulfilled the 3%. Did not hit the overnight, right? But it still went down towards it. And in your NASDAQ, I didn't want to do that. Didn't want to do that. And then in your NASDAQ, we hit the overnight low. Went smashed through it. Right there. Right? I actually had an example sim trade in Top Step just to show how we should take out the overnight lows in the Nasdaq, and it hit it. I mean, fake money. It was like an $8,000 trade with five NQ minis. But I had a nice short live in my room in the ES. I pretty much top ticked the highs, and I took what I could get. I got like a 2-to-1 basically, but it fell a lot lower than that. So, and again, this market continues to be not the easiest to trade. Okay, in a little bit, I don't know how much time. I don't have a ton of time. I'm going to try to zip through a couple things. I can show you some of my stats. I was able to recover my December stats from my funded account when I got funded, and then I can show you my January stats um, with the help of my new assistant, my AI assistant. He was able to build me a dashboard with the stats. So I could share that in a little bit. So basically 2 months of profitability, pretty good. All right, I'm on my way again, trying to get funded for my second account, and then we'll see. I might start if I really like what I'm seeing. I might start trade copying, having my leader be my funded account, and then copy to the next combines. Because if I did that this time, I'd be making money and would be getting funded. So, but it's all about testing it out. All right, it's all about testing it out. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steve Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to my structure in the markets, along with gamma exposure levels, and supply and demand, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. That is how I construct some game plans. Okay. Now use market internals. That's my bread and butter. Anchor VWAPs and also some ICT, smart money concepts, just to execute with a framework. Okay. Now if you come to my Discord, okay, if you come in there, I've been navigating the markets. When I'm in a trade, I explain step by step where I should have trouble, what should happen, and if anybody's watching me right now, they can attest to that. Not sure if my boy Ran is in here, Amalio, Rosita. I know I had a late start. They might even think I'm not even streaming right now, but they can attest to that. Okay? They can attest to that. Now, hopefully, you join me every morning. All right? My alarm doesn't go off. I'm usually up at 8, 10 a.m., but subscribe, set that alert to give you the market news. Just to basically the real deal of the markets, okay? Technical analysis, long and short trade scenarios of the NASDAQ and ES futures is how I end the stream. Now, if you want to join and get more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. It's Confluence Trading. That's Confluence Trading. Go to YouTube homepage, click on my link, sign up. What are you waiting for? Now, I have implemented a new little AI assistant, so I'm hoping to make my community somewhere where you go for information as well. So if you join, right, I'm setting it up with my AI bot to like give us a morning brief. So if you can see morning prep channel now, gives us the economic calendar for today. Okay, gives us the Trump tracker, gives us the market breadth internal summary, top market macro news, and earnings. Now I'm going to keep adding and subtracting to try to give you guys the best one-stop shop here. Okay, now also during the day, I have my assistant here to give you the news. It's going to fire off at 9:15, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and 12 p.m., and then 4:10 p.m. for the market wrap-up. Okay? So hopefully you take advantage of that. I think it's just a nice, condensed, beautiful summary of stuff. Okay? So hopefully you join. All right? Now, let's get right into the futures watch list here. All right? There's a lot to talk about with my late start. Trying not to be too wordy. All right, now silver had like a 30% drop on Friday. It was up to 120, I believe. It dropped all the way down to like 70 something. Now it's getting a little bit of love today, but the VIX is our leader, up 7%. All right, then you got silver up 3.38, dollars up 0.42. 10-year yield is flat. The Dow is flat. 30-year bonds sold slightly. Russell down slightly, down 0.22. ES down 0.38. Gold down over a half percent. Nasdaq's down 0.65%. Crude is down 4.8280%. Now that must have something to do with Iran, whatever you want to say it. Bitcoin is the big loser, down almost 7%. I talked about it with my good friend Rosita, who's heavily into crypto and stuff like that. I mean, technically, anybody could see 77,000 was the support. So let's see from here. I know Michael Saylor, there's been all over social media with his MicroStrategy and all that stuff. You know, a lot of people have theories of what, is going to go on with that. I really don't care. All I know is that's, like, some people consider that a Ponzi scheme. Don't know. Ethereum is getting crushed, down 13.26%. Now, probably got, and I saw some big whale got liquidated or something like that. But like I said, I'm not an expert. but I see what's going on there. Okay, Mag 7 plus. All right, Eli Lilly up 0.37. Now Novo Nordisk is going to report, and so are they this week. All right. Who's lagging? Let's go over the half percenters. Amazon down 0.54, Microsoft down 0.59, AMD down 0.65, Google down 0.74, Apple down almost 0.80, Meta's almost down 1%, Broadcom down 1.29, Nvidia down 1.61, Tesla's down over 2%, Coinbase is getting destroyed, down 3.48. Now, eventually, for myself, in my portfolio, which would probably be a position trade, I might dabble with Coinbase or Hood. Hood definitely for a long-term investment if that keeps pulling back. Coinbase would be just position. I would just as soon as I get some money, I would take it off. Now, if Coinbase went down to $60 again, then yeah, I'd probably put it in my portfolio. But we'll have to see. Again, not financial advice, just what I'm doing. Okay. Top sectors. Leading, Oracle. Oracle's been getting smashed, but there is some news with Oracle. Okay, we'll get into that in a little bit. Palantir up 2.37. Remember, they reported earnings this week. McDonald's up 1.27. Salesforce up 0.81. Visa up 0.5%. Now, lagging. Miners down 0.57. The NEM. Exxon, Chevron, all down over 1%. And Disney reported earnings this morning. They are down almost 2.5%. Okay, I'm not going to go over it granular today, just a matter of time. Let's go to sectors. All right, who's leading today? We got utilities. Utilities is leading today, up 0.28. Financials up 0.17. Who is down? Well, you got discretionary down 0.35. That's your Amazon, your Tesla, your Home Depot. Technology down 0.44. Semis are down 1.07%. Okay. Energy down 1.61. That is your watch list updates. Okay. Now we can go to my Discord and let's see just the morning prep. What do we have for today? We have 9:45 a.m. S&P Global Manufacturing PMI. 10 a.m. ISM Manufacturing PMI. So 10 a.m. is SLU data. That tells me it's Monday. Mondays are usually a little crazy, meaning they could die. They're not very readable sometimes. It's like digesting the weekend. Now, this was wild price action in the overnights. Trump tracker, tariff threat. All right, breaking. President Trump has threatened a 50% tariff on Canadian aircraft via social media over the weekend. Markets watching for official executive orders this morning. Chip war. Implementation of 25% tariffs on advanced AI chips. NVIDIA AMD entering active phase to protect national security. Fed transition, Kevin Warsh remains the primary sentiment driver as the market continues to price in Trump Fed. Now, that's interesting. That Warsh guy, he's not very dovish, which is interesting. Okay? Market breadth. There's a divergence detected. The percentage of the S&P 500 stocks over the 50-day moving average is trending lower, while index prices remain elevated. Participated is thinning. And the NYSE showing notable relative weakness. And the Nasdaq 100, the average stock is struggling. And then we know that metals were under pressure. Top Canadian growth, economic growth stalled in November, combined with aircraft tariff threats. Canadian dollar is under pressure. Warsh rally. Financials and yield-sensitive sectors remain the primary beneficiaries of the Fed chair's transition optimism. Oil volatility, Middle East tensions in transition, and U.S. energy policy keep crude prices in a wide range. And then you had Disney. They beat earnings. Reported quarter one results this morning. Top expectations driven by the theme parks, resorts, and cruises, but it's down. Tyson Foods mixed revenue beat. I don't care about that. Next one, and Palantir. It's on watch. High anticipation report scheduled for after the close today. All right. That's what we're looking at there. Now, I went over the calendar. Okay, so like I said, I don't want to be redundant. Let me go. Why is that's being a pain in the butt, man? Hold on a sec. That just keeps being a pain in the butt. I don't know why this keeps being a pain. Don't know why that keeps happening. But we just went over that kind of count. We don't have to do that. We went over that. We don't have to do that. Now, let's go over some other stock news. Oracle stock gained 1.8 after the software company expected to raise $45 billion to $50 billion in 2026 to build additional capacity for its cloud infrastructure. So that has its moving. Okay. Now, Walt Disney beat, but they're down now. So I don't know why it's down. Okay. Nvidia stock fell 1.2. The Wall Street Journal reported that chipmakers plan to invest up to 100 billion in OpenAI to help it train and run its latest artificial intelligence model has stalled. Okay. Tesla stock slipped 1.8 after electric car makers' European sales slumped. Bunch of minings, right? Now, let's see here. Coinbase stock slumped 3.6 after the cryptocurrency exchange suffered from the sharp drop in Bitcoin. We just talked about that. Estee Lauder stock fell 0.8 with the cosmetics company undergoing a major restructuring. Autodesk stock gained 1.2 as JP Morgan upgraded its stance. Okay. Let's see if there's any other news. Nope, nothing else to go over here. All right, we can move on. We'll go over internals. Internals, of course, are my bread and butter. Aren't my bread and butter. Let's recap them real quickly. So, so you had tech was relatively weak, right? Kind of choppy. You can see the internals were in sync with the market cap and the equal weight, which brought us down. Then it got bought up, and then it was just stayed in the range. Okay, that really was the sell-off that happened. Okay, you did have breadth that was like pretty negative. There was at one point the Nasdaq was over negative 2,000. That's pretty much you're going to get every pop sold, which happened. Okay, but the S&P 500 and ADDs were very very benign. Okay, so again, a mixed market. You have to pick the day and you have to trade accordingly. Okay, which I did, and I explained that in detail in my channel. I narrate constantly in my channel on the Discord, and I was saying this is right now a balanced profile, and then I short it, and then like I said, I had it like a 2-to-1. All right, that is your market internals. Now we're going to move on to the daily charts. Here we are. Now that, my friends, is a doji on a daily, right? So the day before, whipped down. This market does not know what it wants to do. Look to the left. All this congestion. That's really all it's about, okay? We're at 689.50s. We are right here in the lower third of Friday. Okay, let's look at futures. Futures, here's the important part with futures. Okay, very important part. You hit the 100-day moving average and bounced off of it. You're above the 50. You went up to the anchor view up for the year. Now, look to the left. Okay, what do we have here? Let me get my marker right, okay? What do we have here? We have a sweepy, okay? So, this morning, when we went lower, okay, we opened right there is the open. We took out that low, and that low. And we're up here now. Next expected move could be here, because we just swept that liquidity and we're back inside this range. The only problem is you got the gobbledygook above us, which is hard to get through. So this market is not easy. I talked about that ad nauseum last Friday. Okay, so you have that right there. You swept all that liquidity and you're back into range. Generally, you're probably going to go up higher. That's the expected. That's what I would expect today. Now, moving on to Qs. Okay, here's our Qs. Did not have a doji. They're relatively weaker, right? Opened here, closed here. Now that was the previous week's highs. You were over there a bunch of the week, but closed back inside the previous week's range, right at the anchor view up for the year. Now, where are we at now? 618.60. 618.60. That puts us right at the lows of Friday. Right at the lows of Friday. Okay? Going on to the futures. Okay? Futures. Look at the sweep. Here's our candle for today. You took out one, two, three swing lows. Or put it this way, three lows of 24-hour session candles. And now we have basically like a hammer. Back above the 100-day moving average. This was last week's lows. You swept that last week, and now you're pushing back up into range. You generally, when you have a session like now, that remember this day is not over until about 5 o'clock, but that is pretty bullish. Okay, that is pretty bullish. Expected move would be to go higher. Okay, we're not inside yet this range from Friday. Okay, but as soon as we start creeping into range, remember the market will do what you generally expect it to, but in the least obvious way. So this could be a little, and then eventually you get one candle that goes like this, and then next thing you know, you're moving back up into this range. Okay? Now let's smell that breath. Is that breath stanky? Let's see here. So percentage of stocks over the 50-day moving average. We are at 65%. Believe it or not, this reading improved a little bit. We're still in the middle of nowhere here, but improved a little bit. But the market's moving lower. So interesting, right? So breadth is not very frothy. It's not very oversold. So that's a good marker to check. Very good marker to check. All right, moving on. Hourly charts. I know it's 9 o'clock, and let's see what's going on here. Let's go over to the hourlies. Maybe I end it here. I'm not sure if everybody wants my market profile, volume profile analysis as well. But let's go to hourly charts here. All right. So on this chart, pretty easy to see it. Okay. This is what I said the market wanted probably to go down to right here because there's poor structure here. Well, we did it in the overnights. So you can see this ray from here. What did we do? We came and we closed underneath it, but the next hour's candle pushed back in, and that would be a sweep. So we swept that liquidity, came into this demand zone, started firing off. Now look, poor structure up into here. We cleaned up the poor structure. That's expected. Back at the most traded price of the rolling year, 69.45, and the most traded price of the month. No shocker there. Okay? No shocker. Now, what would I expect today, like I talked about earlier? This is the last 4-hour candle. That is pretty bullish, right? You see our daily candle, like I told you, it was like pretty much a hammer. I know a hammer's up here, but that's pretty good buying excess. Okay? What would I expect? Well, this little equal high here, right now, that's a little sweep as well. You do have kind of like an hourly supply zone right here. Okay? Now, what could we expect in the ES? Well, if we struggle a little bit, right? If we struggle a little bit, we could pull back into this demand zone and get some love and try to work through all this gobbledygook. So the name of the game is the 69.45 area to about the 69.65 area. If price can establish acceptance above here, that's bullish. Bearish. Real quick, let's do the little schematic of the trend. Okay. Let's do a little schematic. It's very easy to use this Okay, just to see what the heck, because it's ugly, we've been doing. And it's not pretty. Okay, so that, my friends, is our little trend. So what are we making? Lower highs, lower highs, right? So what do we need to happen in this little skeleton here? You got to take this out. And if you take that out, you're taking out the big ultimate balance there, level. So if we even did this, okay, took out there, made a swing high, broke that, that would be a market structure shift, and then you can make another swing low, and you could go lower as long as you created another higher high, and that's it. Now, what could also happen, like I just said, keep the trend, and you would need to, there's not even a swing low here really. There's poor structure below here. So if you took out that, then you can continue down. Okay? I love looking at the trend like that because it's very easy on the eyes. Okay? So this is yet to be, that you're into this area is not good. It's not a good area. You know what I mean? If you want to scalp a short here, that's probably a good one. If you want to just wait for the long here, that could be possibly good as well. Okay? That is your ES. Moving on to the NASDAQ. All right, here's your NASDAQ. Same thing I talked about in my Discord. I said this has poor structure down to this swing low. And that was last Sunday night's low. And I said we're probably headed towards that. Well, we didn't do it in the real time trading hours, but we did do it in the overnight. You can see we opened here, pushed down, right? And then what did we do? We actually closed down here. And it was like, ooh, if you're watching that, you'd be like, oh boy, man, this is down. And then what happened? It closed back above that swing high, swing low. And now look. So we kind of swept that liquidity. That's what I'm saying. I would expect a higher move today. Okay. So same thing. We got the lower trend. You're not as close to the gobbledygook, to this big balance area yet. Okay. And remember, look at the poor structure. We cleaned that up already. That's cleaned up. And then you're kind of into this little bit of a supply. Okay. So like I said, you just have to wait. This is actually, that is a swing high there. Did I miss that? Oh yeah, it's right here. You would need to take to get any kind of traction here. Really, to change stuff, take out that swing high. Then you can make a new swing low, and then we could start making a move up until we do that. Right? You're under this level. It is bearish. It is. Okay. So you have a farther room to go up here. You don't have that in the ES. And this markets continue to be very hard to navigate. So like I said, in this case, let's say we did break this and close up here, create a new swing high. Well, you can pull back into this demand and see if you can make another swing high and continue up. Okay? I don't know, but we'll see. Like I said, we swept that liquidity. Shorts are probably pretty much gone unless they come alive and you can break this demand zone. Okay? That's what I'm looking at in the NASDAQ. Now we can move on to the market profile, volume profile. And remember, this just gives us a nice view of the sessions. Okay, really nice view of the sessions. This is your market profile, volume profile. All right, so this is beautiful. Now, this is your ES prices here, 69.43. Look at the buying excess here, because this shows you Friday's range, the overnight low, and prices here. Right? That generally means that, yeah, the sellers are pretty much done. You're that far up in the range from a low, that's a sweep. Look at all these lows that you swept. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? And when you know that, the expected move today should take out the overnight highs and probably maybe touch Friday's highs from that sweep. That's how you got to look at it, unless proved otherwise. Unless there's negative news or something that comes out. Okay? Remember, the poor structure was repaired already. So, and we're in this difficult area. I'm not excited to trade inside this area. Okay? Just not. So, if we're going to talk about our scenarios, okay, we have an overnight high here, lines up with our most traded price of the current year and the most traded price of Friday, right? So that becomes a key level. Okay. Now, when I talk about poor structure, there's two ways to look at it. Now, in a very weak or strong market, you will just clean the poor structure up. It's not going to be much support, much resistance. Okay? If poor structure becomes like this poor structure here, if this becomes support, that's bullish. That's how you have to look at it. It doesn't mean poor structure, you just rip it apart because that's how it works. No. You have to understand the market environment you're in. If the market is not that weak, poor structure can be support. If the market is not that strong to the upside, market structure that has poor structure above becomes resistance. If it does, it's bearish. Okay, so let's get right into scenarios, which I already talked about just prior. Okay, so we're going to start with the bull side. Remember, that sweep happened. Okay, so we're in this major balance area. I don't want to do business too much in here. Okay, now this is a swing low in a 30-minute. It didn't really have a swing low, so that demand zone right here is very important to me. Okay, I know we swept all that liquidity. So, what could you expect? You can struggle here, like this. Whoop. And I expect a little pullback. Okay? Maybe you test this swing low, maybe you don't even test it. But if you get one of these, then a higher low, that's a long, depending on market internals, how they're looking. Then you can tag this and try to work off this. Move up to the overnight highs. That's a swing high. Okay, that's 69, 65s. Okay. If you take that out, I would expect, and if you find acceptance above the big balance area, you probably are going to tag Friday's highs, 69.91s. Remember, the sweep, this should be expected. If you're conservative and you're like, hey, I want to watch price accept over ultimate this balance area and wait for the pullback to tag that, that's fine, but you might find it more difficult to get the trade. Okay. Now, another scenario. Well, this could be a little bear trap where, let's say you quickly come down into this poor structure. There's a bullish fair value gap right in here, and this has to be quick. If this poor structure gets support, whoop, and you get a higher low, that's the long as well. Okay, and that's all I'm interested in. Okay, shorts. Remember, we're in a downtrend. Look, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, right? So if you can't take out this swing high and you fail here, whoop, maybe get a retest here. You can short down to this support of this demand zone. Now, poor structure below. Now, if the market opens up and internals are not strong, you're going to clean that poor structure up and you're going to test the overnight lows. It's that simple. You could also smash a little bit into this supply here. Like I said, this poor structure. So we'll have to see. Now, NASDAQ. Okay. Remember, NASDAQ is gapping down. Different from the ES. Okay. Different. Let's bring this up. Okay, so it's different than the ES. So, what do we have here? Let's look at it. Give me 1 second, folks. 1 second. Sorry, folks. Give me 1 second here. One second, folks. All right, let's get back to this analysis. My apologies. I was honestly checking out my bot. It just updated something that was incorrect, so I'm working on that bot assistant to be more accurate. That's all a work in progress, so I apologize. Now let's get into the Nasdaq. Okay, let's open this up. Here we are. Okay, so pretty clear game plan here. We swept a bunch of lows. Right now we're back to the lows. My anticipation, we're going to at least hit the overnight highs, 25646. Then you have this big balance area from 25685s all the way up to the 259s. All right, 257 is a very important level. Now, I don't know what's going to happen today, right? Nobody knows. But when you make a sweep like that, pretty much the shorts are cooked unless there's some other way, okay? So, let's talk about it. Let's get into the NASDAQ scenario. All right. So, if I want to be long, okay, remember what I said. There is a little swing low here and here in the 30-minute. Okay. Same kind of setup in the ES. Okay. Expect it. Look at this little right here. That's a bearish for value gap struggling right here. Okay. Now, right in here, also a little poor structure. So, I would like to have a pullback in your Nasdaq. Where could I go? Last week's lows. Okay. Now, if I get support in there, you get a higher low, you're going to target the 257s. Now, if you want to hold a runner and you could try to traverse the balance and try to hit Friday's highs. Like I said, expected move after the sweep would be to tag the overnight high and try to tag the RTH high. That's where liquidity is. We already got told from the market, this is a lot of buying excess. and we're starting to move back up, right? That's the expected move. Right? Don't get that confused with my expected move indicator. This is just based on liquidity and by a sweep. All right. Now again, could you have a bear trap trade? Yes. If it's strong, if it's a quick move, you have poor structure here. You also have bullish fair value gap. Any move in here or tiptoe into this demand, and you get a higher low, and the internals are not weak. Remember, the sweep indicates we go higher. Remember, the market will do what you probably think it will in the least obvious way. Remember what I said. Expect from this sweep a move to the upside unless there's a news catalyst. All right? Bear side. Okay? Well, we know this is a swing high in an overnight high. So, if the market does one or two things, if it pushes up into this 257, you come in, you fail, retest, then you can short back to this last week's lows. Now you have poor structure under here. If you can take this and the market's weak, you're going to rip through this poor structure. You're going to hit the overnight lows. This keeps the downtrend intact. And then you could fall maybe to 250s. I don't know. This market, I don't expect this, but I have to have it in my scenarios. If you want to be conservative, you wait for it to take out right here, the 25399s. Maybe wait for a retest to get the overnight lows if you want to be conservative. All right. That's it for me, folks. I know we have a market open coming at 9:30. That is in 7 minutes. Okay. That is it for me, folks. Please smash that like button if you enjoyed my analysis. Thank you very much, and that will help my channel out tremendously. As always, please come join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert to give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, the leaders and the laggards, technical analysis, and I just gave you the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and the ES futures. Now, as always, you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. I will not steer you wrong. Now, everybody, have a great day. Remember, it's Monday. This market just swept liquidity. Remember, the expected move is up. Overnight high, possibly Friday's highs. Okay? Remember, no trade's a trade. If I don't see you in my Discord, I'll see you tomorrow morning.